Welcome back, Lord Summits. Today we're going to be talking about motivation techniques. So, Abdul, do you want to kind of run through what people think motivation is versus what it actually is?
Yeah, so the traditional notion of motivation is that motivation is something that is required to do well at a task, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not motivated, you're not going to do well in a task. And if you are motivated, you will do well in a task, right? Now, this notion is a little bit wrong. And I'll tell you why it's wrong. Is because it's a lot wrong. So the reason that it's wrong is because you actually don't need motivation throughout the entire task. Mm-hmm. If we look at the chart of when motivation is actually needed, motivation is needed at the beginning of a task. So when you're at 0% completion, right? When you're just starting off that task, that's when you need the highest motivation. Yeah. But as the task goes on, the amount of motivation needed actually decreases. Okay. When you're coming, because think about it, right? When you're coming near the end of a task, how much motivation do you really need? Not much.
It's just, hey, I just got to get this done at this point. It's who cares? Just
exactly. You're right at the end of the finish line. Maybe you slow down a little bit, maybe, right? But it is easy for you to finish off that task.
Yeah.
Right? Versus at the very beginning, we have a big assignment, big final paper coming up. We procrastinate it, we push it off to the last second because we don't have that motivation when it's needed, right? So that's kind of the traditional thinking versus what it actually is.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing where everyone thinks that you need motivation throughout the whole thing, right? But I think when you realize that all it is getting entry into whatever it is, it makes finishing tasks a whole lot easier. It's like, hey, I just need to get the ball rolling and then I'll get to the finish line. Right? So then this kind of carries into the types of motivation which are required. Like there's kind of these two different ideas that play against each other when it comes to motivation. There's positive and negative motivation. So that's basically positive motivation is something where you're working towards a positive outcome, like a reward of some kind. Okay. Versus negative, where you're basically trying to avoid something from happening, like a negative outcome occurring. And then there's intrinsic versus extrinsic.
Okay, so what is positive? Give me an example of positive motivation.
Once I finish these, then they kind of fill into this kind of four-corner chart sort of thing.
Right.
So intrinsic versus extrinsic. Intrinsic is basically you yourself being the motivating factor, versus extrinsic, some outside factors being the thing that's motivating you.
Okay.
So we'll run through each of them. So there's going to be positive intrinsic, which is you kind of wanting to push yourself towards a goal of your own. Like for me, that would be getting 1700 in chess. Right. Motivation towards this goal that is positive, which is improving who I am. Right. So then I did positive intrinsic. Positive extrinsic is some monetary reward. Say you're at work and you get a bonus for completing X number of tasks. Positive extrinsic, it's an outside factor that is making a positive outcome for
versus chess, which was a passion of yours. Yeah, so because it's internal.
My motivating factor is myself, right? As opposed to that other one is something else. Okay. So then there is negative intrinsic, which is me being like, we'll say test, for example. Me studying for a test because I don't want to fail. Right? Because the negative outcome is failing, and I am motivating myself so that doesn't happen. Okay. And then we'll say last one is negative extrinsic, which is like your boss saying, hey, if you don't get your stuff together, you're going to get fired. Right. You need to work harder, and then you're going to be like, okay, time to start working hard, right? Yeah. So how do you,
it's like your parents telling you, I'm going to beat you if you don't do well.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on.
Negative extrinsic.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Kind of do you have any examples of these happening in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. I
know you probably have many positive, intrinsic, positive.
I have a lot of, positive motivators. I'm not too sure if they're intrinsic or extrinsic.
Let's hear them. We can figure it out.
Positive motivator to do well in my job, to do well in this podcast, right? What is that? Intrinsic or extrinsic?
Well, why are you doing well in the podcast because you don't want to let us down, or are you doing it well because you think through putting hard work in, then it can get to this end goal, which is better for you? Because I think that's one that it kind of fits all depending on how you look at it, right? Right. Because it's kind of this team thing, but you're kind of looking out for yourself, doing the best you can.
Well, if I'm doing the work in the podcast because I don't want to let you guys down, then that's actually a negative extrinsic motivator.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. A positive intrinsic motivator or a positive extrinsic motivator would me doing this podcast so I could get more money
or more
views.
Yeah.
Positive intrinsic would be me doing this podcast because I am passionate about the topics that we're discussing.
And you want to grow as an individual.
I want to grow as an individual. And negative intrinsic would be self-humiliation. I don't want to humiliate myself.
So then therefore you're motivated, so then you kind of study what you're talking about more.
I'm motivated to know the information more because I don't want to be, humiliated by myself.
Well, yeah, it's funny though how you can take all these 4 different perspectives about one single thing, right?
Right.
I think that's the interesting thing with motivation is it all basically comes down to how you look at it. Mm-hmm. Maybe apart from the one where your boss is saying, hey, get it together, you're going to get fired, right? But but in most circumstances, your perspective on the situation. A very kind boss. No, but it happens to some people. Gladly not me, but I can't speak from experience with that one.
Not me. That's funny.
But yeah, like perspective is such a big influence on how your motivation impacts you, right? Because for the test one, even like that one, you could say, I want to study so I can do well on the test. Intrinsic positive.
Right.
Right? And then you could say your parents come into play, and there's a bunch of different ways everything can run.
Okay.
So just basically, I think what that comes down to is using, how did I want to say that? But like you want to make sure that the way that you're thinking about things is a way where you can flip things into the positive, right? Mm-hmm. Make everything a positive intrinsic or positive extrinsic. You don't necessarily always need that reward, but flipping these into this positive thing, so then your driving is not fear, right?
So what is the best of these motivators?
Well, I don't know like statistically what the actual best one is, but in my opinion, I think the best one is intrinsic positive. Mm-hmm. Because then you don't need to rely on someone else to drive you forward, and you're driving forward towards an outcome as opposed to running from the fear behind you.
Yeah, I would imagine that positive intrinsic motivation is the most long-lasting of the types of motivation. Yeah. But possibly negative extrinsic is the best for short term.
Yeah, like if you really, really, really need to get something done, that you'll get it done if it's a negative extrinsic,
if
right?
You know that there's a harm coming towards you, you almost want to avoid that harm, more than anything.
Yeah. Like I said, right? Perspective is everything when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of talked about the pillars or the ideas behind motivation. So we'll jump into like 4 major elements of motivation. Mm-hmm. So the big 4 is personal drive to achieve, commitment to goals, initiative, and then, I forgot, optimism or resilience, right?
Okay.
So basically, personal drive to achieve think of it as personal empowerment. You really wanting to get towards that thing, that end goal.
Okay.
Like you personally, like you have this major drive to get to that end, whatever that end point is. So again, this is kind of like the positive extrinsic or intrinsic sort of thing. So they've kind of found like there's the 2 sort of mindsets, like a fixed and a growth mindset, right? Where a fixed mindset is one who thinks, hey, whatever I am, that's what I am. I can't really improve to go forward.
Right.
Versus a growth mindset, which is, hey, I can learn anything through hard work. I can get to my end goal.
Okay.
So they've found that if you like those who are more motivated are those with a growth mindset. And why? Because they realize, hey, through hard work, I can improve myself and get to whatever my goals happen to be, right? They can be these goals up a mountain, some crazy goals, super hard to get to, but by thinking, hey, no matter what I do, I can learn and improve, you can get towards that summit, right?
So is the point of saying it's a personal drive like important because you can't be motivated, or like motivation won't really exist unless it's a personal factor?
Well, I think so, yeah. Like motivation, like it doesn't matter how much the external motivation comes to the core is how much you need to, like, the fire behind you to get whatever that thing is, right?
So if it's the drive of the people around you and it's not your own personal drive, then you're pooched.
Yeah, because then you're relying on others to get towards whatever that thing is, as opposed to personal drive is you turning that engine on to get to whatever that is that you're trying to achieve.
Right.
So I think relying on others is kind of a dangerous game when it comes to motivation. That's why I think positive extrinsic is kind of risky in that same source, because you never know when other people are going to be there, right? But if you're always there,
what if the internet cuts out? You don't got access to those people, and you can't text anyone to get you hyped up anymore. You're done.
Do you do that?
You're done. That's what I did. That's when I want to get hyped. Send somebody a message.
Hey, hype me up, bro.
Hype me up.
I'm about to fail this test, but hype me up. Get me going or I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
So the next one here is commitment to goals. So this is kind of saying you need to goal set if you really want to be motivated, right? So through setting your goals, then it forces you to be committed to what those goals are, right? Because if you kind of wake up in the morning and be like, okay, I don't really have any goals I'm going to go towards.
Is that true? Is when you set a goal a determinant of commitment?
It increases your likelihood of moving towards that goal. Because if you don't set any,
just set it, right?
it's better than no.
It's better than not setting
it. If
it.
it's like for like, the only thing you're changing is setting a goal versus not setting a goal. You're going to be way better from setting a goal than not, right?
Right. Yeah, and I guess also with commitments to goals is if you try to increase your commitment to those goals through different things, such as telling other people about it.
Yeah. So here's this
right?
interesting quote that kind of shows this, right? Where it's like, when it comes to motivation, if you aim at nothing, it's easy to achieve it.
Okay.
So if you're not aimed at something and you're not going towards anything, it's easy to not do anything, not easy to not progress, right?
Yeah.
But if then you go set your aim on, say, this thing in the distance, at the very least, you can work towards it. You know where you have to go.
Yeah. It's in psychology, they kind of say the person who doesn't have any goals, what they're really doing is they're protecting themselves from humiliation and failure.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
But in the pursuit of protecting yourself from humiliation and failure, you actually end up with something far worse, which is a life devoid of meaning, right? Yeah. Like you have no purpose essentially because you've let yourself go adrift in this big ocean of possibility. That was a big metaphor, but yeah.
Wait, I thought you were still going. I'm like, wait, why'd you just stop? I was like, is there more to that?
Right? So that is definitely very important.
But yeah, I think the end note of that one is it's important to set your goals because by setting your goals and knowing where you need to go, it provides you with that motivation to get to that end goal, right? Because if you're not going for anything, where is this magical motivation going to come from? Because like, say you want to do that thing, like I said, chess, get to 1700.
Yeah.
That is my motivation. I have my eyes on the prize. Now I know where I need to be, so then I can just work hard to get there, right?
And also, you telling me that you're going to get, or you telling sort of the general public you're going to get 1700 puts you a little bit more on that track.
Because if it was just me just playing chess, being like, oh, well, I went down 50 ratings. Oh, no, I'm up 100. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But then it was, I think, since I finished finals, I was like, you know what? What is like my personal things apart from big things? That's it. Chess 1700. Big challenge. Like, it's a lot of rating points, and it's going to be a lot of work. But having that eye on the prize, if I fail, 1,600? I'm at like 1,500 now, so up 100.
Yeah.
Is better than being like sticking at the same spot, right?
Yeah, you're definitely going to be more likely to achieve that, knowing that you have that particular aim in mind.
Because even if you fail, you're failing towards your goals, as opposed to if you don't even bother. You're
Failing
staying in the
sideways,
same spot.
backwards.
You're sitting in the same spot. You're not going anywhere, right?
Absolutely.
So then the next one here is initiative, right? So it's like basically the ability to take advantage of opportunities when they occur. So like in school or with like jobs are a big one of this, right? Like if you're not hunting for jobs, you're never going to get that opportunity, right? Especially...
Yeah, or when you do get a job, are you doing the bare minimum?
Yeah, well,
that's
where I was
what
kind of going with that
right?
is like, think about like as like a summer student, kind of these type of jobs, right? A lot of these is them taking a chance on you because you don't really have anything to fall behind it, right?
Right.
So if you're not applying, you're not giving anyone the chance to even take the risk with you. Hey, I'm going to give this guy a chance.
Yeah.
This random kid a chance. So if you just, with that initiative, just spamming out all these ones, and then hopefully someone will give you this opportunity, this little chance, this little piece of gold.
But
then
also,
you can do it.
When you do get a job, or if you do get a job, and they pay you $15 an hour, a lot of the times we say, oh, they're paying me minimum wage, so I'm going to put in minimum effort.
That's a terrible mindset.
Right? That's kind of really bad advice because the reason that they're going to continue paying you minimum wage is because you're putting in minimum effort.
Yeah. Well,
do you want them? It's like when they give me a raise, then I'll put in more work.
Well, I think that's more of like just like a normal kind of job at like a mall or in something kind of front-facing job, right? People think of that. Like I was thinking like more so with like these corporate jobs, like at least the summer type of ones. There's no really room for growth in pay, but the growth in knowledge is what you're really getting from those.
But there's
right?
the potential for, because let's say it's not at the end of this summer. Maybe you're under a contract, they're going to pay you X amount of money. But if you put in the value of a person who's getting paid $20 an hour, then what is your likelihood that at the end of that summer, they're going to say, hey, by the way, you were giving us $20 an hour worth of value. We want you to stay with us.
See, that's the difference.
Right?
That's the other value. Like there's non-monetary value behind a lot of things,
Exactly.
right? So I don't think you need to use some of these things as like the initiative or whatever to do it. So it's basically saying, hey, I'm going to put in my hard work towards whatever this thing is, hope someone, I'll get this opportunity, and I just need to take advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
Like with school, online, it sucks. But if you took the initiative and you continued to work harder, your grades can blow up, right? You can do so good. You can do so much more stuff outside of school because you're taking this initiative of the opportunity of this terrible thing that's going on, right? So it's all about seeing what's around you and just taking the opportunities that are presented and not just letting them pass by. I know we've talked about this on previous podcasts, right? Where it's, if you see something in front of you, why don't you just grab it? If it's within arm reach, why don't you go get it, right? And if you're not doing that, then you're not taking the initiative. Or even just sticking your arm out and hoping something runs into it. Again, initiative. To say, hey, I want to have this opportunity, then something just has to float into your hands and you get it there.
Yeah.
So then the last one here is you need to have like optimism or resilience, right?
Yeah.
So
how do you feel about this one, Mr. Realist?
Hey, we talked about this in the past.
Right.
We talked on optimism. I am more optimistic than average. I'm above average optimism. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the ability to look on the bright side and think positively.
I just put you on the spot.
And it's like the resilience is like the ability to bounce back from any sort of setback you have, right?
Right.
So having these two sort of things kind of is keeping your motor going even when bad things are happening. So even when you think, oh, some bad stuff's happening, I'm losing any of that real motivation. If you have that optimism and resilience, you're going to be able to fight back, keep that motor running, and continue towards whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, and resiliency kind of falls into that idea of like mental toughness, where you're able to persevere in moments of low motivation to you kind of, keep dragging that motivation along, even if it wants to stay behind.
Well, and even, with the optimism, it's like, even if you're falling further away from your goal, it's like, hey, if I keep working hard, if I keep doing my thing, I can get back up to where I need to be or even past it, right?
Yeah, and if we think about optimistic people are a lot more motivated than pessimistic people, just because they have a zest for life. Like they care to live.
Well, they think there's a chance. They think there's the chance that someone will take the opportunity. So of course you're going to be more
motivated.
Yeah,
100%.
So optimism, resilience. We've talked about them on other podcasts. They're continuing values here. So we're finally going to jump into here, ways to improve motivation. These are kind of short run things if these broad ideas aren't necessarily working for you in the moment. These are kind of some things tips, tricks you can do to try and improve that. So firstly, it is focus on your accomplishments. So say you're moving towards that goal, right? We'll continue with the chess one since it's kind of been recurring. Goal, getting to 1,700. Say I'm not getting anywhere near it. I'm not making any progress. It's like, hey, look how far I came. I'm like 1,500. There's all this stuff behind me. I've achieved so much. And that should give you a kick of motivation, right? Be like, I've done it. I've been there. I've made this growth before. This is just another one of those challenges.
Right.
Because everyone always looks to focus or measures their accomplishments based on how far they are from their end goal.
Yeah.
They don't look back behind them and see how far they've came in the past, right?
And we're always our own worst critics.
Because we're always looking this way and we're saying, hey, our end goal is so far in front of us. You don't look back and say, hey, look, I can't even see the start line anymore because I'm so far forward. So if by flipping that mind and looking at that, be like, hey, look where the start is. I'm so far from it. I've made so much progress. Usually that'll give you like the hype, the motivation to then kick forward even more.
And I guess also imagining that if you can kind of see that you're closer to the end line than you are to the start line, then you might as well finish.
Yeah. Well, with the chess one,
because it's closer.
Like I'm at like 1,500. A 200 jump from 1,500 to 1,700 is a lot to do in like over a summer.
Right.
But I was down at it starts basically at like 200, 400, like the rating. I'm 1,000 points higher than where someone's starting.
You already made it 1,000 up.
Exactly. So it's another 200.
Yeah.
Word. So yeah, then the next one here is create and use a positive habit, right? So say for the gym, it's kind of tough to get going at the gym. Mm-hmm. So say every morning when I wake up, I'm going to do this routine to get going. Force myself out of bed, force me to go to the gym. Or force me to stay accountable, like saying every time I go to the gym, I'm going to do this sort of warm up. So your body kind of gets used to something happening every day or every time they go to the gym to a point where it feels weird that you're not doing it.
Right.
So another one could be every time night before bed, I'm going to do a 30-minute meditation or something of that sort. Again, with chess, it could be wake up at 7 a.m., do an hour and a half of studying, and then go on with my day, whatever it is. You get in a routine to where it feels weird to not be doing it.
Yeah, and I think when you're establishing the habit initially, the habit doesn't need to be an outlandish habit. So I remember when I was starting off at the gym, going to the gym for an hour 3 times a week was annoying. Mm-hmm. But eventually, and I remember this happening, it was like a click happened where an hour at the gym actually felt like I was just getting started. So then I was like, okay, fine. Let's push it to an hour and a half. Let's increase the number of days. And it was actually easier for me to make those increases until you can start going every single day. So when you're establishing that habit, you don't have to go from 0 to 100, right? Maybe you don't have enough motivation in your tank to do that. Mm-hmm. But what is the most that you can kind of push it to a sustainable level and then just start doing that? Yeah. Eventually, one day it's just going to click. And it's just going to be like, this is real easy for me to do.
And then it'll feel weird when you miss the days.
And then it'll feel weird when you miss the days.
That's when you know you've made it. That's when you know your habits have kicked in, and then you don't need motivation per se to do whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Your habit is your motivator at that point. So then you're basically set. This next one is, if you're feeling low on motivation, say this like before a test or to study or whatever, just increase your energy. Get amped up. Get fired up. Yeah, that'll get you going. Like I know you love that one.
It's start just yelling at a wall.
Well, for you, it's just get insane. Like get high, get hype. Let's go, and then you can
before a test.
Not before a test, but like like when you really need to motivate outside of you'll just kind of do that.
Yeah. When I need to maybe give a speech, possibly something along those lines. Before a test, I like to do the exact opposite.
No, but I'm saying like you're lacking the studying. It's like come on, just do it.
Right. Just another hour. Yeah. Or especially with like fitness. Yeah. With fitness, I'm pretty bad with that. Where I'm just like. Just a little bit more. Or like cardio. Yeah.
So then this next one is write a personal contract. So this is kind of a bit longer term thing, right?
Yeah.
So you write a contract with yourself or with a friend saying, hey, if I can't do these things consistently, if I miss the gym, I have to pay you money or I have to jump into a frozen lake or something. You do actually have an example
I did
of this
that.
one,
I did that back in grade 12. It actually worked really well for me in math. Mm-hmm. In math class, I told my friend, I said, for every assignment or test where I get, if I don't ace it, anything below an ace, I'll give you $1, right? And, I ended up paying them a few dollars across the semester, but what it did is it really inspired me and motivated me to work harder. When I was studying for an exam, I knew that, okay, let's not skip this question. This practice question that I would normally skip, because I'm not going to skip it because, I know that it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how many hours am I putting in for me to get that 100.
Yeah, and then that was your motivator, right?
That was my motivator.
And it definitely, even if you didn't ace it, you would have done better than had you not had that personal contract.
Oh, 100%.
So again, getting you closer to the end goal, even when you fail, it's helping you with that, right? And then this last one, this is if everything else doesn't work. This is really weird, but look at the color green. So you look at... So
look into my eyes.
Your eyes aren't green.
I know, Hudson.
Well, they might not be able to tell. That's the joke. But yeah, so like the reason why is because green is like correlated with the highest level of motivation out of any of the colors, right? So if you really need motivation or something like to study or something like that, go outside for like 10-15 minute walk, just outside in like a park or in a forest or whatever's around you. And that should give you a little click of motivation that you need to get to at least get that engine, get that spark in the engine, get it sort of slowly going.
Yeah.
And then you can maybe use some of these other tasks to get that even going at high speed.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty cool tip. Okay. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode about motivation techniques. We hope that you could take away some information, hopefully get yourself a little bit more motivated to finish those tasks that we all know we have to do. If you guys found this information helpful, think of one friend who could benefit from this information and share this podcast with them. You can catch the full video podcast on YouTube. The full audio podcast is out on all platforms. Be sure to follow us on Instagram where you can catch more content. Thank you guys so much.